Now, it's time for the Anchormen podcast with Matt Gaetz and Dan Ball.
Welcome to Anchorman. I'm Matt Gaetz alongside my good friend Dan Ball, and joining us for at least a little bit of this episode, producer on the Matt Gaetz Show, Vish Burra, former congressional staffer for myself, for George Santos, former body man for one Steve Bannon, the founding producer of the War Room podcast, and firebrand, Vish Burra. Thanks for joining us on Anchorman.
And it was just your birthday.
Thanks for having me, guys.
Happy birthday, big boy. What's up?
All right.
This is the one we're always making fun of behind the scenes. Here's the Vish.
I enjoy watching you guys film, and every time you bring me up, it makes me feel part of the family. That's how I felt yesterday when I walked into the surprise with a bunch of our OAN friends and
Right
teammates there.
Good.
And that's how I feel when you guys mention me on the show.
And you feel so at home in California. What I have to tell people in your East Coast following is that you, other than the cigarettes, you've gone carbon neutral. you have an e-bike now?
Yes,
I did see you, right? You are like a little California liberal yuppie. He's zooming in on an e-bike, and I'm like, dude, where's your car? I have a gas-guzzling German car, and then here's Mr. New York. Wait, actually, it's more like...
It's silent. It's pretty silent. It's called Goat Power Bikes. That's the brand that makes it. It's the Motor Goat V3, and it's a great time. No gas. I weigh 200 pounds. It takes me up that hill on Jutland at 20 miles per hour. That thing is pushing.
So does the e-bike count as an exercise experience?
When you have the pedal assist off, yes, it does.
So what percentage of the time when you're on the e-bike is it like exercise versus just motorcycle?
Probably like 20% is exercise, 80% motorcycle. Yeah. And
how far can you get on a full charge? Again, this is San Diego, so he's going up and down hills to get to work. But if you're just driving it normal day, whatever, are you charging every couple days like a Tesla, or every day it's got to get charged up?
So for my commute, basically Monday through Friday, I just do one charge, and it'll last me the week. I live about 2 miles, not even 2 miles.
Well, that
from
helps.
here.
Okay. Speaking of charges, there's something I noticed out about town that it is the height of irony. The new violent left thing to do is to attack a Tesla charging station.
I saw it.
Right? And so I'm seeing they're like, Elon's a Nazi. There was a Tesla charging station I went by where all of the things had been vandalized. And I'm just thinking, so now the left that used to want everybody to have an electric vehicle is now attacking the electric vehicle charging stations.
Because they're guys working with Trump to save all of us money. So it makes a lot of sense. I think, didn't we see some actually got more than just like graffiti and broken and destroyed? I think they burned some. Some blue. They've been getting violent with these charging stations.
So wait, are we supposed to make them happy by having gas powered engines? Do
you remember 20 some years ago, again, I'm a little older, when the Greenpeace type people were out blowing up Hummers at GM dealerships around the country? Remember that? They wouldn't just spray paint them, they would burn them, blow them up. That's the same crazies. But then now they're doing it to electric charging stations, the one that want a clean environment, but because it's connected to Elon. Again, this is the TDS. This is the Trump derangement syndrome. And now the left are eating their own. They're going against their own causes. I got to say, it's glorious. It's dangerous. It's ridiculous. It's absurd. But yeah, they're doing it.
Well, I think it's really about the ideology at the end of the day. The thing that they say that they want is never actually the thing, right? That's the point.
There you
go. They are for electric vehicles. They are for, clean energy, clean environment, all this stuff. Elon Musk makes it his essentially life calling, or part of one of his life callings, to create a product for the American people at scale, for the world at scale, that does exactly this, a fully electric
and affordable
vehicle. But the moment he goes off script on the ideological part, which is maybe associating with Trump, working with Trump, maybe a few right-wing views, maybe a few Republican views, now he's a Nazi, right? Now, actually, I'm going to burn down the very thing that I advocated for the last 20, 30, 40 years.
They did the same to Trump, though.
Well, hold on. I thought that they were so into the climate religion that they would be willing to accept a Nazi if a Nazi was on their side on like the Greta Thunberg climate change agenda. So is it that they don't really care about emissions that would cause them to like, even at Mardi Gras, Dan, they were attacking Cybertrucks.
Yes. Bashing them, smashing the windows,
but does that expose them as not really caring about the environment and climate, or does it just show that there is no ideology that undergirds the anger?
I would say that. I think that, and if you looked at the podcast between Charlie Kirk and Gavin Newsom, I just got up here, finished watching that a little minute ago. It's interesting that he was agreeing with Charlie on so many things, and it just goes to show that even one of their staunchest leaders in liberal California, the governor, Mr. Newsom, doesn't really believe in what they're pitching. He doesn't. He was aligning with Charlie and agreeing and saying, yes, this was crazy of our side to do this. I don't think 90% of them agree or even understand what they're fighting for. It's an ideology that's all up here. Nothing's here, right? It's not heart. I feel like, I would hope, you guys, because I know where the hell I stand for my convictions, my beliefs, my country, my God, here in my heart and my head and my balls, okay? That's where I stand, period. I don't need somebody to preach an ideology to me or coach me into something or convince me of something. I know it because of these three things to be true. And I feel like Democrats and liberals and these wackos that are out doing those things, stuff we would never do. You know, I didn't go out and I didn't yank one Joe Biden sign out of somebody's lawn or destroy somebody's car that had a Kamala sticker. But can many liberals say that about us? No. They're the ones out there doing it, which proves to me, one, they have no head, they have no balls, and they have no heart. Well, go ahead.
No, I think honestly, it's just that they want to see the message and the messenger aligned. And the moment that one of those things goes off track, they abandon the whole project, right? I think that that's what's going on, right? And so
it's a demand for purity, more than like the climate change Elon being more important to them than the USAID cutting Elon.
Right.
It's the demand for purity across all spectrums, and any deviation or departure of that has to require a diminishment of every other contribution that you've made.
Right. Well, they don't even want robust debate within their own party. I mean, think about it, right? With Democrats, it's their way or the highway. I would say, and Matt, you know this better than any of us, being on the House floor, having to debate folks in your own party, right? Because you had Freedom Caucus, you had some of the old rhinos, you had some of the new diehard MAGAs come in. You had 3 or 4 factions in the years you were in, always fighting. Over the last 8 years, you don't see a lot of Democrats infighting, even though behind the scenes, like I just said, I firmly believe they don't believe in 90% of the stuff they're spewing, but they're afraid to go against the ideology, the party, anything with their messaging. And because I feel like this, they're overeducated, number one. And the way elites educate on college campuses, as we know, is, and underloved. They're told what, right? You're a victim. The oppressor now is Donald Trump. The oppressor is Elon Musk. The oppressor is Matt Gaetz. And so you're the oppressed. We're trying to help you. And if you're not on board with us and the messaging and the ideology 110%, then F you. And that's what they saw with Elon. Elon was one of us. He has to be. He's a climate guy. Oh, shit, he's helping Trump. You're out. Just like they all were with Trump.
Like, if Elon Musk could have ended the gas-powered car entirely and solved climate change, I think the fact that he's with Trump means they cancel him anyway.
For
the reason you just said.
Look what Trump just said at the speech.
Okay, so
I could cure cancer and they'd hate me.
Speaking of the speech and speaking of the floor.
Yeah,
all right.
Here we go.
So Al Green goes waving his pimp cane around.
You called it.
Okay, and then they just censured him.
Yeah.
They took
that
time.
was quick.
Okay, so would you have voted to censure Al Green?
I want decorum, but I also know back in the day how we used to have robust debate on that floor. And if you go back and look at the logs, 200 years ago, we weren't civil. We didn't have all this decorum. People were banging stuff and yelling, here. That's how we got our message across. So
you respect the game.
I like that game. You know, because you know I ran. And if I'd have been in there and I'd have won an 18, you and I would have had a hell of a lot of fun if I'd have been in the
Dan Ball would have been waving the gold-plated cane right next to him.
I would have brought a cane I didn't even need just so I could use it.
So Vish, you actually believe Al Green is the front runner for the Democrat nomination for president in 2028 right now after this moment?
Well, after the censure, he's at least the front runner for the Senate race in Texas, I'm sure, for that primary. But hey, I think honestly, first of all, I would have never, if I ever had the opportunity to vote on the House floor, I would have never voted to censure Al Green. And in fact, I think Al Green was the Democrats' strongest soldier that night, especially when you compare it to all these people holding up paddles in the gallery like, they're playing bingo or something, right?
Yeah.
That was, those aesthetics were just pathetic. The left, the Democratic Party, they are so desperately looking for strong leaders right now, and they just can't get them. There's nobody that the base hates more right now than Hakeem Jeffries or Chuck Schumer. They don't know which one, but they know that they're both at the top of the list. And the fact that nobody could muster up any response outside of Al Green to put on a show like, hey, I will stand up to. I've been calling this guy a Nazi and all sorts of crazy stuff for the last 10 years.
Where was the squad?
I'm going to stand up. And,
right. Where were the wild women in white?
And he did it. And honestly, I commend him for being a guy who stood up with some courage.
Well, I mean, look, the speakers did the right thing by throwing him out. But I feel like after you get thrown out, moment over.
Yes.
But that's enough. You made an ass of yourself. It's over.
To take the time on the House floor to then go back and censure him, I think elevates him. I think it makes the House look small. It's like, look, we have all these executive orders to put into law. The government funding runs out in March, and Dan, they're thinking about doing a CR.
I know.
What are
listen, I had Jim on, Jordan, I think you did too this week or last week, and I'm being told that Trump's back in the CR, the speaker's backing it, most Republicans are backing it. I just wish we'd let the whole damn thing shut down. Let it shut down. Why can't you balance a budget and show the American people that you do what we have to do every day? Because as you're learning now in the private sector, and you've known for years, and I've known for even more years, if I don't balance my budget, I'm screwed. I don't get to print money. I don't have to get to phone in a friend and ask for more cash. I know I'm broke. I think the American people want to see our elected officials do the same. So let it shut down. And I get that the CR is not going to allow any more of the pet project and extra funding go in and blah, blah, blah. I got it all explained to me by Jim Jordan the other day. And I went, yeah, I get that. I understand that. But why can't we just let it shut down and see what happens? It's like the Pentagon not meeting a budget in how many decades almost.
I don't know if they've ever passed an audit.
Right, since the 90s, they said. How can this be? I mean, not one American family could not pass an IRS audit, or our asses would be in jail. Not one American family can overdo our budget and go, you know what, I'm $10,000 over. Don't worry about it this month, sweetie. Keep feeding the kids, pay the mortgage, make the car payments. Honey, there's no money. Oh, print some. None of us can do the things that DC does. And so I think people
Vish just has to sell some of his collectible sneakers that he buys. And
is that where you put the cash?
How many pair of sneakers do you own, Vish?
At least 60 or 70.
Holy.
At least 60 or 70 that are open. And
because
I don't even own 60 shoes.
Hold on. The true collectibles
are there. I have another 30 or 40 there that are just sitting in the box. Never
opened.
Never opened. And those go up in value over time. And but the way I kind of get it, because I'm not going to sit there and try to sell all these sneakers. What I do is I give myself reasons like, if I accomplish this, I'll open this box and put them on my feet, right? That's kind of how I reward myself in that regard. So since moving to San Diego, it's like, oh, now that I'm moving to California, I'll open up a new pair. So I opened up these Versaces. And that's this is what I rewarded myself with.
He's single.
Look at him name dropping Versace. I want to see these. Hold on.
He's got 60 pair of shoes. He's wearing Versaces.
Damn.
And DMs are open. Vish Burra.
Let me say that again. Damn.
I wanted to get
Versace.
I wanted to get your take on another story. I didn't get to cover it on the show, but the BLM square from the George Floyd riot.
Oh, the one they
era.
painted all yellow in DC.
So it's getting painted over.
I saw that.
And it's getting renamed. And I wanted to ask you about it, Vish, because you always talk about how seizing territory is important as a symbol, as a sign. And it was all the talk of DC when it originally got named. What's your take on the move to seize that territory back from whatever that was?
Well, first of all, I love it. Secondly, whoever supported that being there in the first place should consider themselves lucky and should consider us rather humble and really nice because we didn't burn it off, right? The way BLM burned our cities down, when that was going on during the summer, of 2020.
Summer of love.
We didn't go that. We'll just power wash it off. We are doing this very nicely, right? Very orderly. We're going to remove something that should have never been there in the first place. And seizing that territory, again, it's very important that the world knows and America knows that it's not just the big things, the symbolism of the little things too, like that street, with the name on it. It's almost like broken windows, right? If someone sees that broken window, they think that whole building is not being taken care of. If they see that BLM thing on the street in front
Of our nation's capital.
Of our nation's capital, they think that it's like, wait, when did America not know that Black lives didn't matter, that they need this reminder here?
Right.
It's totally ridiculous. It was always ridiculous. And again, the detractors should feel like, you know what, these guys aren't as the monsters that we make them out to be, because they're not going there and grabbing their monster trucks and burning rubber on it. It's
we knew the election was stolen in 2020. You didn't see us rioting in the streets and burning stuff down and acting crazy. Conservatives could have went nuts.
But how do you?
We didn't.
How do you, Dan, rank kind of the importance of reseizing that territory from whatever mind virus led us to name?
Oh, I agree. I'm 100% in with Vish. I think it's great. I mean, look what Trump's doing with Gulf of America, the Panama Canal coming back to our control. He understands that symbolism, and Vish gets it as well. That's a big deal. I mean, being a veteran, look, anytime there's a symbol, you can get young fighting men to do something off of one amazing symbol, right? That's why it's so important to have a great commander-in-chief, because a Ronald Reagan, a President Trump, somebody like that can stand up there and say, fight, 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 or say something, and you can mobilize an entire movement off that one symbol. So I agree with Vish. If you're taking a major street in our nation's capital and you're defacing it, and that's what it was, defacing it for a movement that was corrupt as hell from the beginning. I mean, talk about the money that was wasted. Who was the top gal? What was her name at BLM that was buying the mansions? Which, by the way, she lost one or two of them in the fires. Sorry for your loss, sweetie. Was paying her brother $1 million a year for security.
You know what?
She was the top BLM gal.
I'm okay if we repaint the hallway in front of the tax enforcement division at the Department of Justice with the BLM sign. I'm okay for the reasons Dan just laid out. All right, so this all emerged. I mean, the reason that Plaza happened was the George Floyd riots. It was a spasmic reaction to that. I saw a lot of calls online recently, even amplified by Elon Musk, for Trump to pardon Derek Chauvin.
Yeah, the cop.
Have you given that thought, Dan?
Yes, I have. I think it will cause a lot of outrage, and I'm all for it.
I think that Derek Chauvin should be pardoned, but I find this push now at this moment weird and inorganic, and especially that it came from Daily Wire, Ben Shapiro, pardon Chauvin. He's pushing a link there too. I find it very odd. I think it's a weird, data grab at the very least to build up an email list off that. And I'm kind of wondering why Ben Shapiro, of all people, would make this big stand to pardon Chauvin now. And just to clarify, I don't even think President Trump can pardon him because they're not federal charges, right? That's the other. So it's a total and what, Ben Shapiro doesn't know that, you're telling me, but he's still going to call for it? Doesn't that seem a little weird to you?
So you're just smelling a straight grift on it.
I think it's worse than a grift, actually. I think that there is again,
I don't care who's pushing it. I was asked if I agreed with it. Yes, you're correct. They were state charges for what did he get? Second degree?
Something like
not
that.
First, but it's state. It's not federal. So a president can't pardon you. It would have to come from the governor.
Yeah, obviously. I was asking the question more.
That's not happening.
More philosophical.
But yeah, and that's what I figured. And that's what I agree with, because no one wants to go to the facts on the left and look at this man's toxicology, his medical history.
Fentanyl in his system?
There was 4, I think, different drugs. Don't quote me. This is a podcast, so you can fact check me later. But he had fentanyl, marijuana, I want to say either heroin and cocaine, and another one. There was 3 or 4 drugs. Then look at the physicality of the man. They said he had deterioration around the heart tissue because of the decades of drug use. So he had a weak heart. He was on tons of drugs that day. Oh, and he had COVID, which makes breathing already difficult. And so Derek
we know that
Chauvin,
kills people instantly. RFK Jr. has called it out. Big Pharma and the government work together to suppress treatments like ivermectin, hydroxychloroquine. And why did they do this? Well, because if they admitted that those treatments worked, then they couldn't rush through the COVID vaccine. And let's be honest, you had a lot of big companies out there in Big Pharma who didn't want to miss out on their billion-dollar payday. So they would just push the vaccine. They made sure you had no other options, and they wanted to be in charge of your healthcare. We actually think you should be in charge of those choices. That's why we want you to go to allfamilypharmacy.com/Matt. That's allfamilypharmacy.com/Matt. You're going to be able to get your ivermectin, your hydroxychloroquine, antibiotics, vitamins, supplements, so much more. They get the medication shipped right to your door. No red tape, no corporate pressure, just real options. And it's not just the emergency stuff. You can get your everyday maintenance medications there as well. allfamilypharmacy.com/Matt. Use code MATT10 for 10% off. Make sure you're prepared and take control of your healthcare.
Nice segue, because that's actually the truth, though, about COVID. Let's be real. The whole thing was a damn pandemic. And George Floyd was sick that day, had been sick for years, was on tons of drugs, and that cop did what thousands, if not probably millions of cops have done over the decades when arresting a perp who's not obeying. They put a knee in the back. I actually tried that, by the way. I had an officer friend about the same size do it to me right after it happened back in that summer. And I lasted more than 14 minutes or whatever it was. I'm sitting here. I didn't die, but I also wasn't a 20-some-year drug user. I didn't have 4 different illegal narcotics in my body.
Not even 4 that make sense to try together.
No, exactly. No. I mean, don't mix your Coke with your marijuana. Why would you want to do that? So yes, I would hope that he would get out. It probably won't happen. Look at the state that sent him to prison. And so, like my grandma used to say, wish in one hand, do you know what in the other, put them together. It's still shit. So
we got our guest. We got 99, Alex Stein. Welcome to the podcast, buddy.
I invited on a friend. This is our pal. If you don't know, the pimp on a blimp, Mr. Alex Stein. He's got a little talk show like Matt and I over at The Blaze, The Boys with Glenn Beck. And so I thought we would ask the pimp to come on, since this is kind of a bros Anchormen, right, podcast. Alex, if folks don't know you, fill them in.
Well, guys, I'm Primetime 99 Alex Stein. I'm AOC's ex-boyfriend, Tucker Carlson's biological stepson. But I got to say happy birthday to Vish. Are you kidding? Last night I saw that. And guys, if we want to give a little inside baseball, the people that are watching this podcast, people need to go follow, obviously, Dan, Matt, I'm sure everybody is, and Vish. But Vish, last night, that cake in your face, that was a little intense. Like, are you okay? I saw that video. I watched it 10 times because I've never seen a cake implode like that. And you handled it well. I don't know if I would have handled it as good as you did. Very professional, I have to
say. Yeah, we need to roll that video. That's what happens when you let a Marine do something, right? Like because I was talking with our friend that smashed that in your face, and I knew his background, being in the Marines, being a UFC fighter and everything else, and he was asking if I wanted to do it. And I'll admit, as an Air Force guy, Vish, I probably would have given you a push like that with the cake in the face. The Marines,
a normal person, Dan, time out. A normal person would have pushed it very gently. That was a very. I'm just saying, a normal person. Everybody's kind of smashed it. You just got to smash it. I mean, that was not just a smash.
That's the difference between normal and Marines. This is a dig from Azumi to the Jarheads. That's the difference between Air Force and Marines. Marines, Air Force, we do stuff with a scalpel. Marines just take a blunt force object and bash you over the head with it. So happy birthday. That's why you're still picking out chocolate cake from your nose hairs today.
I was just grateful that I did not go home with that cake, because I would have eaten all of it. And I would have looked like that round pie.
It was really good. Did your wife pick that out for him?
She did. She did.
So did a great job.
Are you a birthday guy, Alex? Are you like celebrate big on the birthdays?
No, I hate birthdays. I think birthdays are the worst thing ever, and I'm not just saying that to be, different, but yeah, just because really, what are we celebrating? Like, I feel like we should almost celebrate the last day of that younger year than, celebrating the new year. But I'm a little bit of an ageist. But real quick, because I know I'm only on for a short time, and Matt, such a big fan, and I'm sure you're getting a lot of heat, and I know we can't judge stuff, but I'm just so frustrated that you're not the Attorney General right now when it comes to this Epstein release. And I'm not going to attack Pam Bondi because I know there's a lot of red tape, but I mean, what's going on? Do you think we'll ever actually get some transparency, Matt?
I am a big Pam Bondi fan, and I believe that the effort to frustrate the Epstein release is largely driven by the very foreign governments who are involved in running Epstein. I think that we would have had this information long ago, and he'd probably still be alive today if Epstein wasn't working with at least one foreign government during the time of the Iraq War to keep leverage over key voices in academia and business and politics. And I think that the exposure of that operation would necessarily lead to some very uncomfortable moments for some other American allies. And then you have to start thinking like, we think of the UK as an ally, I guess because they fight with us in every war, but like they were spying on President Trump. They were involved in the espionage against Trump. And you think about other allies or so-called allies that are willing to spy on us, not to hurt us, but at times to work with other people who are then in turn willing to hurt us. So I appreciate the support. I did see a poll today that I am like the leading Republican candidate for Attorney General of Florida. So I had not mounted a campaign for that. It wasn't really something I was looking at, but it was nice to see. And maybe, I don't know, maybe the AG itch is one that doesn't go away with one scratch.
All right, so I got a follow-up since Stein threw that one out. Is he dead? And if you believe he's dead, did he in fact kill himself with those sheets, or was he killed in that prison cell?
I believe he was killed, and that is my opinion.
So he is dead, but he was killed, not suicide.
Well, right. I believe they had to kill him because Epstein walking around was a loose end.
Right.
For the far more powerful entities that were running Jeffrey Epstein. I think that is what he did was horrible, but the globalist powers that were running Epstein, I think, were not able to allow him to give testimony or reveal other evidence.
Vish, same two questions to you.
I do not think he's dead.
Oh, he differs from the Matthew.
Well, Vish also doesn't think Tupac is dead.
I'm listening. I'm all ears.
But
go ahead.
I have a very simple,
Okay.
Show me one picture of the guy either going in or out. That's it. That's it. I don't even think he was in the prison. I think that he has been disappeared into some witness protection program style thing for whatever foreign government or governments he's working for, and they're just keeping a close eye on him. Because I think that they want to keep him around for something in the future. He's the final black book, right? And so that's that you want to keep him around just in case they might need something else in the future to leverage against allies or enemies.
Alex, same to you. Is he dead? And if he is dead, who killed him? Himself or one of those prison guards or some big powerful entity? What do you think?
Well, I mean, it's obvious that, it's kind of sad, though. We're having this great conversation. And if we even just kind of talk about it intellectually, honestly, they'll say that we're, anti-Semitic or, going after somebody. And that's what's frustrating about this whole entire situation. But Jeffrey Epstein, I believe, is dead. They had to kill him. But if we want to take it one step further, because this has been such a great conversation already, Dan, you had me dying laughing, talking about your cop friend. And, this is a weird thing with Derek Chauvin. But let's really get into it. When it comes to those Hillary emails, Matt, as the AG, if you would have been the AG right now, would you have ever looked into that? Because I know Ian Carroll's going viral for talking about it on Joe Rogan, but you remember 2016 is Pizzagate, and I'm not saying that all these politicians are really drinking the blood of children, but, those emails were weird. Like, if we're going to really get into conspiracies, I feel like that whole Pizzagate conspiracy is really bizarre, and I'd really like to get your opinion, Matt. You think Pizzagate has any credibility whatsoever, or is that totally
take us down this rabbit hole?
And why not? Why not? When we're talking about crazy conspiracies.
Yeah, we're not going to go to the moon landing next. But if I were Attorney General, I would focus on the crimes that were within a statute of limitations where you could bring a charge. And I think most of that would be beyond it, so it would not get any of my attention in that circumstance. But I do think the way that this rollout happened with the influencers and the binders was weird. Like Alex is someone with a massive digital presence. If the White House invited you there, you would go. And if they gave you something, you would probably take it and read it. But do you think that some of the people involved in that feel a little used?
Well, I know Chad, I know Savannah, and both of them definitely feel like that they were obviously kind of just, I don't want to say patsies in the whole thing, but they all took all the arrows, they took all the hate. And in reality, like you just said, if anybody got invited to the White House, you would go there and you would gladly accept it. So, yeah, I think that was done kind of on purpose to make it seem like we were getting information when in reality we got nothing.
Well, they were there for a different reason, though. Don't forget, I had Chad on, I think the two days after it all went down. And I was talking with Drano, Rogan O'Hanley, and a few other ones. And they all said, we got invited by the White House. The administration invited them to talk about how social media influencers will be used along with legacy mainstream media throughout the next 4 years, because we feel that that's something positive. So more Americans can hear from the Trump administration and not just through CNN, ABC, and the old legacy media. And so they all told me, and I'm sure you heard the same thing, Matt, we were here for that. We got done with that briefing with the press secretary, Caroline, and others. And then as we were about to leave and we're in this one room, that's when Pam and Cash walked in, and Pam presented them with the binders, didn't give them too much guidance, just said, this is embargo till 3 p.m. when I'm going to release it to everybody. Have a nice day. Now go out this door, not the door you came in. They walked out, and there's the press corps going, hey, what'd you get? What'd you get? And they're like, this? And they held it up. So, yeah, I don't fault any of the social media influencers, which are a lot of my friends. Because
I don't know, Vish, that you had
opinion
friends
on
in that group. You're an aspiring influencer.
Aspiring? Wow, I didn't know you thought so little of me.
Whoa!
No.
You guys need a room? I mean, I can leave if you guys would like me to.
No.
Okay.
I think I think that it was a botched rollout, and I think Pam Bondi's not really ready for prime time.
No, she's bad.
Uh-oh. You guys are she's getting a little bro fight.
I mean, look, the clearly something was botched. You know very well about content strategy and content release and how you do it, especially at that level with those many eyes. And you decide to give it to all these influencers as well, and knowing very much that that's going to be released somehow. It's going to make it to the press. And by the way, that door they walked out of, there were cameras all waiting there. You're telling me that someone in the White House didn't know that those people were walking out?
Do you think it had to do with that she was on Fox the night before bragging that it was all coming out the next day? I'm giving it all. I'm releasing it. And then she got the binder from the FBI. Did she realize then that the goods weren't in there? It was just the Rolodex again. And then went, well, let's just put it in and give it to these influencers and let them pump it up and we'll call it phase 1. Like, do you think it was that deep where she knew, oh, crap, I said this on Fox. I better make something look good tomorrow. I'll do it this way. And then cover my ass because I'll say, well, it's what the FBI gave me. I didn't realize it wasn't all the goods yet. How do you not realize it wasn't the goods?
I think that she's fighting on so many levels against these folks. We'll see if it comes out. But look, I mean, on our last program, Pearson sat there and said, we're supposed to get the JFK stuff. We're supposed to get the RFK stuff. We're supposed to get the MLK stuff. And I mean, Alex, do you think we're actually going to get these disclosures, or do you think the can keeps getting kicked down the road?
Well, it's very simple. I think we know what's going to happen. If you look at the 9/11 Commission report, for example, that's the official story, but there's still 28 pages redacted. And, they say that, maybe it implicates Saudi Arabia. So, they can give us the official story, but they're still going to redact something, So there's no way that they're going to ever let us know the actual truth.
Like all of them.
Yeah, I mean, it is what it is. And really, I think we'd all like government transparency, but let's just be real. You have classified levels of information. That's just not a realistic way to run a government. They have to kind of keep us citizens in the dark. Is that good? No, but that's just the way it works.
I have been in those classified briefings, and everybody thinks it's like Jack Bauer, and it's way more The Office.
Really? Yeah. But I mean,
sounds about right.
Well, I know, but you can only say so much. But in a classified meeting, I mean, if the levels of security in that, what is the highest level of meeting you can go to? Because obviously Donald Trump, when it comes to, and I go back to 9/11, when George Bush says he was briefed by the highest, military executives that Osama bin Laden was, planning to fly planes. What type of classification is that meeting? What is that compared to what a congressman goes to in levels of classification?
Every member of Congress, who, by virtue of their election, has TSSCI. So top secret, special compartmentalized information. So that's even you're above top secret if you are a member of Congress. Then the level right above that you only get if you're on the Armed Services Committee, as I was, or the Appropriations Committee, where you have to know each of these buckets, you get the special access programs. So there were times where I would get special access programs clearance on a particular weapon system that we had to make a authorization on. And then, of course, above that, you get the special coding that the Intelligence Committee, you get the Five Eyes, or I'm sorry, not Five Eyes, you get the Gang of Eight intelligence, which is above special access programs. And the intelligence community usually has pretty strong control over a lot of the people the more they rise up on that ladder. I did want to ask you about something else. Part of the big drama on Capitol Hill today was Mayor Eric Adams at the hearing with the other sanctuary city mayors.
You're reading my mind. I wanted to bring that up.
So I'm watching this, and I'm just thinking, what a delightful little tightrope Eric Adams is walking here with, the sword of Damocles hanging over with the potential federal charges, but then also having the left after him. I want to get everybody's take, but Vish is a New Yorker. So Vish, did you see a mayor who was squirming or owning it?
I think he was squirming. I think he was trying very much to satisfy the Trump admin and the Republicans there and everyone there who's watching from our end, but he was also trying not to provide bad content that could be used against him in his primary that he's running right now from the left, right? And so he was trying his best to say, hey, New York City is a city of immigrants built, as a city of immigrants, essentially, and we stand with those people, but, these illegal immigrants and the crime and everything else, that's what we're really focusing on. He tried to be really precise, and I think he did a good job at that. But I don't envy his position. He was squirming all over that. You could kind of see.
Yeah, he didn't act as nasty as some of the other ones that tried to throw stuff back, like Brandon from Chicago, the clown from Denver.
Woo.
They would throw stuff. Yep. Woo from Boston. They would throw stuff back and be like, well, Abbott sent people to our city, so that's why this, or Biden did this, so this is why we did this. They were trying to excuse themselves, and Eric was a little more like, yeah, we spent $6 billion because we had no choice. Yeah, you did. But when you invite this by saying your sanctuary, which he did years ago, he didn't start standing up and saying no more of this until about a year ago. And that's when, the investigation started, when the Democrats started hating on him, when he finally started speaking out about something he helped to cause. Because he was bragging that New York was sanctuary just a few years ago. Just like Brandon, like his predecessor, Beetlejuice's ugly offspring, what's her name? That was before Brandon?
Lori Lightfoot.
Lightfoot, thank you. Yeah. Yes, that was like Beetlejuice and Buckwheat had a kid. So all these mayors that are out there, is that a good analogy? Think about it. Put it in your head.
A little dated.
Put it in your head. Does it not look like? Come on. A little dated, but I don't give a shit. It's the truth. Look at her. My God, it was scary to look at her every day at those press conferences.
All right, I need the Alex Stein take on Mayor Adams on Capitol Hill.
Well, real quick, I don't want to go on too long of a diatribe, but I am now 100% team Eric Adams. And, the fact that he goes to nightclubs and all that stuff, I think that's kind of cool. Now it looks kind of cool. And it's not just because now he is supporting Trump, but listen, I go and, how did I get well known? Well, I started going to public meetings. And Matt, I would speak serious and then they wouldn't pay attention. But then all of a sudden I started freestyle rapping and talking about, just talking about crazy, weird stuff. And I would get their attention. But I recently went to New York City and I had this video go viral. It was a Veterans Commission and they were talking about how they needed more funding for better lighting because for fluorescent lighting inside the homeless shelter in New York City was, the conditions were bad. And so I just went up there and basically ranted about how it's ridiculous how you can be a Venezuelan gang member, but then claim asylum and you get to stay in a 4-star hotel in the middle of Manhattan, at the Roosevelt Hotel, literally. And you get a gift card because they don't even make the right food. So this video got millions of views in 2 days. And this just happened last month. Not only did I hear from the councilman that was running the meeting, but I also heard that following Monday, I was part of the catalyst that got Eric Adams to say that he was kicking out the immigrants from the Roosevelt Hotel. And I'm not trying to pat myself on the back, even though 100% I am patting myself on the back. What I'm saying is I think Mayor Adams is trying to be intellectually honest, a lot more so than a lot of other politicians. It is hard to kind of now, you're going to say, he's probably, capitulating to MAGA. But I think he's actually trying to be intellectually honest and realizing that this is too many immigrants, and it doesn't matter how progressive we are, we can't support them.
No way. This is intellectual honesty. This is a guy feeling the pinch.
You don't think?
Yeah.
Well, but I'm saying you don't think that he tried it. I'm saying in his mind, he's this black guy. He wants to help people.
Dude, did you see his press conference after he had charges? It looked like one of the scenes from the movie Coming to America.
Yeah, that's why it was so funny. And then his tie, you can tell the more stressed out he is because the looser his tie is, he just looks disheveled. But listen, that's kind of why I like him. I like a guy that's not perfect. And that's what Eric Adams is.
Hold on. If you like guys who are not perfect running for New York City mayor, we have a new Governor
Mr.
Cuomo has entered the chat.
Yeah, Mr. Nipple Ring. Yes, he has the nipple rings, which that's why I'm voting for him.
One guy goes out to nightclubs and the other one does nipple rings and strip poker at staff meetings. Where does that fall in the Alex Stein balance?
I mean, I'm okay. The libertarian in me, you know what? Let your freak flag fly, to be honest. And they're all freaks. You know, I'm not going to be here. I'm not going to be one to judge. But like I said, we are right with Eric Adams. I think he actually is being a little more honest. Like, he tried these progressive, values, and he just has seen how much they have failed. Like, don't you realize the best thing for Donald Trump is that Joe Biden was able to steal that election and get 4 years, because now we actually have perspective and a compare and contrast to see how effective he truly is. Like, wouldn't you agree with that though, Matt, that it felt like it was a terrible thing, but in the end it was the best thing? If
you extend that analogy, was the greatest thing for Governor Cuomo having to resign under his allegations?
No, How'd
that work out in New York?
I knew it then. It was only going to go left. As soon as Andrew Cuomo was gone, it was only going to go left. It's the same thing that's going to happen with Adams if Adams is gone. Cuomo, now that he's in the mix, maybe with his return, he could moderate some of the party. But that is, it's a moonshot, practically.
Are people ready to accept him back? I mean, they always say in politics, if you apologize and it's meaningful, the American people are a gracious people. We will forgive you and we'll bring you back.
Apologized?
Right. I'm saying if he does, will the voters bring him back, do you think?
I think right now, I believe he's polling the best out of the entire field. And
New Yorkers better than me.
I think, look, people do remember Cuomo as being, as a good administrator, as someone who can actually run the government, and people are just desperate in New York to see that back, whether that's on a local level or a state level. They just want to see good governance again. Cuomo's name, plus his father's name, he has all the name ID. He has the experience. He built a brand off of good governance, basically. He also New York State had the longest on the east, in the Northeast, had a Republican state Senate up until 2018, essentially, right? Like, it was the last bastion, and the reason was because of Andrew Cuomo getting these 10 real middle of the road Democrats to do this independent caucus thing where they would go and caucus. These 10 guys would go and caucus with the Republicans, and that's how he kept the progressive Democrats at bay in New York for that long. And once those 10 were removed, essentially, or they were primaried, gone, and in 2018 it flipped to full Democrats, and then you ended up with Andrea Stewart Cousins as the state Senate leader, and she's the real bad deal, right? All the bad legislation, the bail reform, everything is from that move. And so that's when the state Senate fell, that it started, and then they all started aiming at Cuomo because they knew he was the last limiting factor to the full progressive takeover of New York.
So do you think, because this was coming up in the podcast a lot that I was watching, I told you before I came up, which is Gavin Newsom's new podcast that our friend Charlie Kirk was on, and Charlie was giving him advice because he asked for advice on how the Democrat Party can make a comeback, because even Gavin sees that they are in deep, deep trouble right now. And that was part of the discussion, was you guys have allowed the radical progressive wing of the Democrat Party to take over. And so anybody that's common sense anymore on that side does not have a seat at the table within their party. And if you do, they're going to yank the chair out from underneath you. They don't want you anymore. Because it was interesting watching Gavin, who we know, and I've been in this state, even though I'm a Buckeye, I've been in California a long time. We've watched this guy with his slick hair say nice, sweet little things, try to play both sides. But in the last few years, his agenda and the Democrats' agenda in Sacramento has gone wildly and radically extremely liberal to the left. But in this podcast, he was agreeing with Charlie on everything and being like, yeah, no, I see your point. Yeah, that's bad of the party. Yeah, the party shouldn't have done that. Well, yeah, that is crazy. Yeah, that's going too far. Even with, and today, this is the big thing with this podcast out, the Democrats can't believe that he sided with Charlie on the transgender issue, that he said it was unfair. Oh, it's completely unfair. I mean, I got my start in playing baseball in college, so I get the sports thing, and it's completely unfair. And now the left, once again, are doing what they do. They're going to eat one of their own, one of their top guys that they think is going to be their presidential candidate in 28. And because he agreed and said it's unfair, they're literally right now on the air destroying him. If you switch, don't switch now. But watch some of the radical liberals out there, and not so radical, and they're chewing up Gavin for simply saying something common sense, that boys don't belong in girls' sports. It's unfair.
All right, Alex.
I think he's saying that mostly because he's a sociopath and will say anything as opposed to actually believing in.
Yeah.
By the way, him being a sociopath is my favorite part about him. So, but Alex, my theory is this: there is no way the Democratic Party in 2028 can nominate a straight white guy to run for president, even if he looks like Gavin Newsom. He has to go trans or gay.
Well, see, I think that's the. Well, Matt, no, I like that, but I think that's the opposite. It's like they give them what they don't want, right? I mean, Joe Biden would be the oldest and the whitest guy ever, and he's on tape saying the N-word.
Look at what they did
and
to
then
him.
He's a nominee. Well, I'm saying he's a nominee, and then they put up Kamala, who is ethnically ambiguous. We don't know if she's black, Indian. We don't know what she is. I mean, she's like the perfect progressive candidate, and she goes up there and, craps the bed. Excuse me, I don't know if we can cuss, or, I'm just saying she couldn't have been a worse candidate.
Can say
so they go.
It's fine.
She the bed. So I think they're going to go back to the white guy again. I think they're going to go back to the well because that's what they think is the most presentable. And I love this podcast. I just loved hearing Gavin Newsom have to say, and if he was being honest, I applaud him that his son is a huge fan of Charlie Kirk. And that just makes me think, that just makes me think that. And his son is the son of the governor living in California. It used to be the coolest state. So that means now officially young kids feel like it's cool to be conservative. It's cool to go on campuses and not be.
Why do you think he launched a podcast saying, I'm going to talk to only Republicans? I'm going to launch this podcast to reach across and talk to the opposite side to find out what went so wrong in 24. Yeah, that's why you're doing it, Gavin.
It's a cope. It's a total cope.
Well, I think, no, this is Gavin trying his best to look cool with his kid again.
Oh,
right?
you think
That's
the kid.
The impetus.
I think kid to continue his political career.
The impetus. He says, "Oh, my son is a big Charlie Kirk fan." That's the signal, right? That's that. He's like, "Oh man, like I'm the governor of California, Democrat superstar who possibly has a chance to be president." And my son is like, no, that guy's cooler.
Yeah,
right. And
my daughter, 17.
Well, why? If you're honest, you want to find. That's why he's doing that, to find out why. How did you people touch my son?
God, what would have happened if Gavin Newsom's son was a fan of Alex Stein?
He might be.
Let's be glad he's only a fan of Charlie Kirk.
I can't wait to see his
Thank
son.
goodness. Well, no, Mitch Little, Texas rep here. I was recently at an event with him, and his son came up to me, and his Mitch Little is like, "Yeah, thank you for introducing my son to Big Booty Latinas." So yes, he does not. Gavin Newsom is thanking his lucky stars that his son is not a fan of mine.
You're a star when it comes to the young folks out there. I mean,
the young disaffected male. Look, that's the Alex Stein audience. Is that there's a bunch of men in this country who feel like the world is working against them. They got nobody that speaks out to them. And Alex taps into a certain type of humor that is sarcastic and performative and
well, he taught
draws
me.
people in.
We started putting you on the show. When did you not launch your show? Because we had you on before that. When did the videos start going viral of you doing the phrase you taught me? Because I didn't know this phrase. I'll admit it. I'm an old guy. Culture jamming. Because I called Alex a couple years ago and said, come on my new show on OAN. I love your videos at these city council meetings, acting like a complete boob, showing how stupid the radical liberal agenda is. And he goes, yeah, Dan, it's called culture jamming. I just throw their idiocy back in their faces. And I'm like, holy shit, why didn't I think of this stuff? And
Dan thought culture jamming was about jams and jellies and canneries.
Smart ass. I knew it wasn't that. But
no.
But it's a great way to do it. Others do it different ways. Alex was one of the ones that really seized on it first. Did you look at other people doing things and then kind of create your own style, or where did you go, hey, this is what I'm going to do as far as culture jamming? I'm going to go to these council meetings and make a damn scene?
Well, it's funny that you say that. It's a long story short, so you guys will like this. So used to work for over 8 years. You guys ever watch the show, and you guys all have seen it, called Cheaters, where we catch people cheating on their husbands and wives. The guy got stabbed, Joey. So I used to be the host of that show.
That's right.
Yeah, I was a producer. Excuse me, I was a producer, not the host.
Yep.
But what happened was this guy by the name of Clark Gable, he's a grandson of the actual Clark Gable from Gone with the Wind, my very good friend. He had a prescription for pain pills for a doctor in California, ran out of the pain pills, and this is when we were filming the last season. And Clark, when I say this, you guys know people that partied, but Clark was like the biggest party animal. I mean, like he would stay up, and because his dad was Clark Gable's son, and his grandfather, the famous actor, was, God rest his soul, alcoholic, party animal. So it's kind of a long line. He was like the ultimate party animal.
See, I've never known somebody who's really into painkillers and a party animal. They're usually like really into Uber Eats if they're into pain.
Well, I know, but it sounds like it. But he wasn't. That's what I'm saying. What's funny, you say that because he wasn't the type of guy. Like I know people that did oxys or whatever, and like he wasn't that type of pain pill guy. He was just the type of guy that would take a pain pill because he was hungover. The type of guy that would take a Xanax because he was a wild guy. But he held it all together pretty well, believe it or not. Ran out of these pills. Called a dealer or something, got pills that had fentanyl in them. They were what he thought. He didn't think he was taking fentanyl. He thought he was taking like a Vicodin or whatever, hydrocodone, whatever he took. Died. Literally didn't wake up. The guy that owns a production company was so sad. I was like in this weird time. He's like, Alex, you've been producing the show. I want to make you the host of it now because you know it, and I could host it. I was literally, there was 4 producers. I was one of the main producers, and then there was an executive producer above me. But I was like, this is such a great opportunity. I was finally going to start making. I was making good money, but I was going to make double what I was making as a producer. And right when we were going to start filming, we had this guy by the name of Peter Guns, and he's a black dude. He has that song Uptown Girl. You guys have all heard it. I can't think of it off the top of my head, but he's a famous rapper. They hired him to be the host, and they said, Alex, you're just going to be, if you want to stay, you can just be a producer. And I wasn't mad at this guy, but this is how I know it was a DEI pick because the show's never had a black host. And the company that distributed it is called the Viacom. They own VH1, CMT, MTV. Huge. Yeah, and they made Peter Pankey change his name. Excuse me, his name was Peter Guns. They made him change his name from Peter Guns to Peter Pankey because they didn't want to glamorize gun violence. And the guy that owns the production company is like, we just want to try a black host. It's nothing against you. And I don't fault the host for taking the job. He's actually a nice guy. I worked on for one more episode before I quit. And that's when I started my own podcast. And when I started podcasting, this is like right kind of at the beginning of the pandemic. I'm talking about stuff. And I started to go to city council meetings. And when I went to these meetings, I spoke seriously. I'm like, why are you locking us down? I can't even go to the public park. The restrooms are closed down. It's just, I'm peeing outside. It just makes no sense. How is this? Literally, I mean, they closed down the bathrooms. You couldn't even go to the bathroom and exercise during the pandemic. I don't understand how that's healthy. And these are outdoor bathrooms, right? They closed down outdoor bathrooms. They don't even have a roof on the bathroom. You can't go pee in there. Long story short, they didn't give a damn. They didn't give 2 shits. I was going there being serious. But as soon as I started, and culture jam is just kind of a decorative word because I didn't know what else to call it. But I had a video, my first real video that went viral, and it was actually Charlie Kirk, who now I'm working for Turning Point. So it's kind of full circle. But I went up there, and it was right after they passed the Texas heartbeat bill. And I went up there, and I was like, I love abortion. It's my favorite form of contraception. I was like, I can just, don't have to wear condoms. I have I'm going on a Caribbean cruise. I need this girl to get an abortion before I go on it. Like, I was just so repugnant, but I was dead serious.
Yeah.
And all these conservatives, Charlie Kirk being the first one, look how disgusting. Everybody thought it was real. And that's when the light bulb went off. I'm like, that's how you get somebody's attention. And if you act serious and you kind of just, like I said, I was so pro-abortion, people were like, what is this? But really, I wasn't saying anything different than what you're hearing. I went to Kamala Harris's rally, the one that Beyonce screwed everybody over on. I had never seen more pro-abortion literature, and every single sign was reproductive rights. Every video in between speakers was Donald Trump, once in your uterus. So the way they talk about abortion, they try to kind of present it in this uncallous way, and they call it reproductive rights and this and that. But really, obviously, it is abortion. It's murder. And I just did that speech being very deadpan. Oh, I love abortion. And it blew up. And that's a change.
It is a high-end form of comedy. Where can folks continue to watch your work? And then we'll have to get out of here, Alex.
All right, guys. Thank you for having me. It's always a pleasure. Dan, Vish, you guys are the, some of the best in the business. I mean that. And I love OAN. I love everybody there. I'm jealous that you guys are in beautiful San Diego while I'm in Dallas. But, guys, you can find me on Blaze TV, Primetime with Alex Stein. I'm live Tuesday, Wednesdays, and Thursdays. And, I'm on X. I'm on Instagram. If you can't find me, you're not looking. So, gentlemen, thank you for having me.
Alex Stein, Primetime, Pimp on a Blimp.
Vish, thanks for joining us this week.
Vish, nice having you along,
Good
birthday
having
boy.
you. And if you enjoyed the podcast, make sure you hit the subscribe button, turn your notifications on by hitting that bell, and leave us a 5-star rating or a review. Let us know what you want to hear. Make sure you're watching Real America with Dan Ball here on One America News every night, 8 Eastern, 5 Pacific on weekdays, and then right after The Chaser, the Matt Gaetz Show, 9 Eastern, 6 Pacific. And make sure to download our live app, OANN.com. Thanks for joining us.
See you next week.
Want to see more great videos like this? Click on the link below to subscribe to OAN Live and watch Dan Ball's Real America and the Matt Gaetz Show on Dish Channel 212. Tune in, subscribe, and watch today.